Hiya! Welcome! In today's video, I'm going to show you all the DVDs and Blu-rays that I've purchased over the last 12 months or so. And this is by no way a comprehensive selection either, because I have already shown some of my 2022 DVD and Blu-ray purchases in other videos. For example, there were some wrestling DVDs that I picked up that I showed in a special video that's in my documentary playlist about WWE and wrestling stuff that'll never be on the network, and also a few more football and Nottingham Forest related DVDs to show you. I did do a video about my Nottingham Forest DVD and Blu-ray collection about 8 or 9 months ago. And also there's some music related DVDs as well that I've shown in previous music and record collecting videos. But here is all the rest. Now there's a few of these that I think I actually got in late 2021. I can't really remember the exact dates, but I'm just assuming that most of these, the majority, were bought within the last 12 months, maybe slightly over. But for all intents and purposes, this is the remainder of my complete DVD and Blu-ray pickups for 2022. So there's a lot to go through here. I've not even counted. So let's get started. And I'll start with the only 4K Blu-ray that I think I actually purchased over the last 12 months. And I think this was a late 2021 purchase, because I think it came out just before Christmas of last year. And it's the latest Bond film, No Time to Die. I'm an absolutely massive James Bond fan. Never saw this at the cinema, as I'm not one for going to the cinema, to be honest. It's not something that, with my social anxieties and stuff, I'm that comfortable with anymore. But had to own it as soon as it came out. And this is the first Bond film that I've got on the 4K format as well. Love it. No spoilers here, obviously. If you know James Bond, then you'll have seen this. It's Daniel Craig's final outing as 007. It's the longest Bond film that there's ever been. I think it's not much shy of 3 hours. I've only watched it once, weirdly. In fact, really, this holiday season, I really need to be watching this again. Although I do keep threatening, because I've got the Bond Blu-ray box set with all the previous films in it. I do keep threatening to watch all those from the beginning again, and then maybe eventually do my ultimate Bond film ranking video. So that might be a project that I need to work on for 2023. No Time to Die, the only 4K Blu-ray I purchased over about the last 12 months. Another Blu-ray, although this is actually a Blu-ray and DVD special BFI edition, and it's the early 90s movie, The Crying Game. Brilliant movie, brilliant film. If you've never seen it, and there can't be many of you of my age and older perhaps who hasn't seen this, because it was just quite talked about. It was sort of almost like a viral sort of hit before that term even existed in the early 90s. Set partially in Northern Ireland, but mostly in London. Got the themes of an IRA group planning an attack in London, but it's mainly about this sort of unconventional love story between the IRA deserter, played by Stephen Rea, and the person he enters into a relationship with, played by Jay Davidson. It's also got Forest Whitaker in a more minor role. That's actually one of the things I don't like about the film, is Forest Whitaker's English accent. I think he does a shit job, to be honest, but I do really rate this film, and I love this BFI edition as well. There's the Blu-ray there, and if you haven't got a Blu-ray player, then you can still buy this and get the exact same stuff on the DVD on the second disc. And these BFI editions always come with a really nice, thorough book with essays, and there's plenty of extras on these as well, like interviews with directors and people who are in the film. And yeah, BFI is certainly a place to go to really find some of these classic British films in these really nice collector's sets here. I think I purchased this on Amazon because it ended up being a bit cheaper on there than BFI's own website, but the BFI web store is a good place to have a look for stuff like this. But if you've not seen The Crying Game, and I'm not going to spoil the big twist obviously, even though that's one of the things, I think probably the original spoiler really in many ways was what everyone was talking about relating to this film, but you won't hear it from me in here, but you probably know what it is anyway. These aren't in any order, by the way. I've just kind of picked all these up and dumped them down, so these might be a bit all over the place in relation to what genre they are and everything. But we move on to a sitcom, and you will be seeing more sitcoms later on. This is one, this might have been another 2021 purchase, I can't remember. It could be early 22, I don't know. But I'm a massive Rick Mayall fan. I've loved him in everything that I've ever seen him in. But for years and years, I never saw, let alone owned, The Complete New Statesman, which was an ITV sitcom starring Rick Mayall as Alan Bastard, the corrupt and rather horrible Member of Parliament. And this originally came out, what was it, about 1987, I think. I'm realising I should have put my glasses on for this video because I might want to read some stuff on some of these cases here. I enjoyed this. It's never going to be my favourite Rick Mayall sitcom, but it's great. I think by the end of it, it got a bit too silly and a bit too far-fetched. But when you've got a comic genius such as the late Rick Mayall as your main actor in something, you know, he can pull it off if anyone can, for just being uproariously funny and entertaining. I'll always prefer stuff like The Young Ones and Bottom and even Filthy Rich and Cat Flap when it comes to Rick Mayall sitcoms, but that's not to take away from The New Statesman. It's very satirical, it speaks very much of its time and the sort of late 80s Tory government that we had in this country. Fantastic that. I think that was on sale at Network, and I'll be talking a lot about networkonair.com, Network DVD, in this video because I've bought a lot of stuff from there, and usually when stuff's been on sale and I've just kind of waited for their next sale and to get something, either as an impulse thing or something that maybe I've wanted to for a while. New Statesman, that was great, love it. The next thing, also from Network, may be the best thing I bought this year. I've spoke to friends about it, I've just raved over it. It's a series that's, it's going to be about 40 years old. I always wanted to see it. It finally got reduced at Network and one of their many sales. And I thought, yep, getting it. And I think it's one of the few things out of everything here that I've actually watched twice this year. I watched it when I bought it when my eyes were pretty bad and I wasn't able to appreciate all the visual stuff. And then I watched it rather more recently after I had my first operation. It is Harry's Game, which was a Yorkshire television production from I think 1982, starring Ray Lonnan and also Derek Thompson, who is Charlie in Casualty, and a few other familiar faces from British telly of the sort of 70s and 80s. This is awesome. It's quite low budget really, it's dated, it looks of its time, but that's why I like it. I just love anything that sort of grimy 70s or early 80s sort of look to it, and the fact that this is another IRA based thing, another kind of almost spy thriller mixed with the Troubles, you know, the Northern Ireland Civil War kind of thing. Massive interest of mine that, so that's another reason why I like The Crying Game and Harry's Game. Oh yeah, both with the word game in them, I just realised. Only a 3-part series, with each episode I think being under an hour. Just thoroughly engaging and captivating from the start. I've recommended this probably more than anything else that I've bought in quite a few years, and that I never even saw this until nearly 40 years after it originally came out is a bit of a shameful thing for me to admit. But Harry's Game, sorry, there's a lot of glare in this video by the way on these DVD cases. This is just so good. I'm not going to give any of these a ranking out of 10, I just want to quickly show you stuff that I've bought this year, and I'm probably talking way too much about Harry's Game, but it is brilliant. Here's something that I owned quite a while ago, I think actually on the Blu-ray, and I think I only picked this up, much as I love it, because I was buying another DVD on eBay, and then the company was like offering something like buy one get one half price. So I decided to get Dead Man's Shoes back into my collection. This is a film that anyone who's watched it always says how good it is. A psychological sort of thriller. It was directed by Shane Meadows. It stars Paddy Considine as the main character. I won't go on about the plot or anything too much, other than to say that this film was actually shot quite local to me in a town called Matlock, which is just a few miles from me and sort of heading towards the edge of the Peak District. If you've never seen Dead Man's Shoes, you need to change that. It's on Film 4 quite a lot, I think, so look out in your TV schedules. or just do what I did and buy a cheap version of the DVD. I'm so glad to have this back in my collection, because this is something that I owned many years ago and ended up selling before one of my many moves. Dead Man's Shoes, the absolutely fantastic British psychological drama type thing. That's a must watch for anyone, really. Here's certainly an impulse purchase. I think the reason I bought this is because I'd been watching the main character here, the eponymous Johnny Jarvis, played by Mark Farmer, the late Mark Farmer, in things like Minder and Grange Hill, where he played sort of like a cheeky chappy character in both of those, whereas a little bit more of a serious role for him. This was pretty cheap. I don't know if it was a sale item, it probably was at Network. I didn't really know anything about it. I'd never heard of the series. I think it's from the mid-80s, but it's interesting how over maybe 6 episodes or so it sort of spreads out from Johnny and his friends' school days in the late 70s all the way into the mid-80s. It's got an interesting subplot and I would recommend it. I can't stand that guy there. He's sort of almost like the main character, but not, because it's named after Johnny, not Alan Lipton. But I found him completely unlikable, even though I'm not sure that was the point of it. Interesting drama series. It kind of looks like you might think it'd be some sort of kids thing, like a sort of Grange Hill spin-off really, but it's not. It's quite adult. There's adult themes and bad language in it. I'm glad I got this. I don't know when I'll watch it again, but I will watch it again eventually. There again, anything that's got that sort of 1970s and 80s sort of gritty and grimy 4:3 aspect ratio look to it, I'm all in on, really. Not a big recommendation, but a mild recommendation for Johnny Jarvis. The 2 wrestling DVDs that I bought after I shot my wrestling documentary video that's in the documentary playlist, and it's Hard Knocks, the Chris Benoit story. I used to own this back when I had a massive wrestling collection. I got this because it was cheap, and this is another thing that you would not see on the WWE network for obvious reasons. To call it an easy watch still, years after the fact of we know what Chris Benoit did, is perhaps a little bit trite to say that, but you know, it does still show in a positive light for obvious reasons, because it only came out in 2004, Chris Benoit's career. It's a 2-disc set, got a lot of his matches on from ECW, WCW, I think a couple from Japan, and of course some from WWE as well. I just wanted to see this again, and I could get it cheap on eBay. There again, because I know it'll never be out on the WWE network, I thought it was worth picking this up. The other wrestling DVD that I added to my collection this year, after the other ones that I showed you in the other video, was Heroes of World Class. This is about the Texas-based promotion that was massive in Texas, particularly the Dallas area in the 1980s, which spawned the Von Erich siblings, who were all the sons of Fritz Von Erich, one of the biggest names in wrestling of the 1960s, really. Quite a sort of cheaply produced documentary, but it's good because it does have a lot of archive footage. And I remember having this DVD again back in the day, and I also had a WWE produced World Class Championship Wrestling documentary called The Triumph and Tragedy of World Class, and that is still available on the WWE network as I speak. And I did threaten to watch that again after watching this, but I never got round to it. I don't really want to compare it to the WWE produced one at the moment, having not watched that in many years, but I always enjoyed this, despite its sort of low budget kind of feel to it, and this wasn't very much at all really on eBay. Right, I'll try and get through some of these quite quickly, because otherwise I'll be here for ages, and there's not really much to say to differentiate these next 3, so I'm going to show them you all together. It's just 3 of the Nottingham Forest end of season reviews that I've got. I think that one's the oldest one, that one's the 2708 season campaign. I think that was the one where they finally got promoted from League One into the Championship. And then we've got another one. These are all off eBay, by the way, and I think they're all official Nottingham Forest releases. This one is from the 2010 to 2011 season, and this one, I don't know why that one's in out of order, 2009, 2010. So just 3 of those. I'm looking out for more of these. I don't know exactly how many have come out on DVD over the years, but I do look on eBay just to see if I can add to these, because I do like end of season football reviews, particularly for my own club, Nottingham Forest. Now then, on to another impulse purchase. This was definitely in a sale at Network. I can't speak highly enough of Network. If you're a fan of old British TV and film, because they sell a lot of films as well, you've really got to go and look at networkonair.com and see what they've got, because their archives and what they put out is just absolutely phenomenal. And I decided to have a look at the information that they were listing and then have a closer read about the series on Wikipedia whilst trying to avoid spoilers. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a punt on that because it sounds like the sort of thing I'd like, and I did like it a lot. It's the complete series of The Sandbaggers. This came out in the late 70s, I think the third series may have been 1980. It was written by a former spy who weirdly went missing, I think, as the series was wrapping up, and he was never found. It was a Yorkshire Television production, same as Harry's Game. It also stars Ray Lonnan, who was the eponymous character in Harry's Game. And it's kind of like an MI5 type thing, you know, spy thriller, but more low budget. You know, it's kind of, rather than it being all glitz and glamour like you expect in James Bond or even some other spy things, this is sort of very gritty. Most of it's set in London, but it does go on location to places like Malta. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm so glad that I took a punt on it, because it wasn't expensive in the sale, and it's got some great actors in it, like Roy Marsden there. Diane Keane is also in this for a time as well. As I say, Ray Lonnan, another good actor, is in this, and there's other familiar faces that will crop up as well. Really good. If you're into sort of your more serious spy type stuff, then The Sandbaggers is a big recommendation from me. Now, this next thing to show you, this was actually, I think, the most expensive DVD related item that I bought this year, because I think I paid £60 for it on eBay because it'd been long deleted. I'd seen the first series repeated on BBC 4, I think back in 2021, after the previous series of Line of Duty. Now, anyone who knows me well knows what a massive Line of Duty fan I am. Get onto iPlayer and start watching Line of Duty if you've never watched it before. It is almost perfect, and it's going to rank probably for the rest of my life as one of my all-time favourite series. But really, Line of Duty owes quite a debt of gratitude to this series here, Between the Lines. This was from around 92, I think it started. There again, you probably recognise a lot of the faces on here. Neil Pearson, Tony Doyle, the Irish actor who was also in Ballykiss Angel. This is about sort of, you know, police corruption and a special task force set up within the police to deal with corruption. And this was kind of Line of Duty, you know, 20 years before Line of Duty, really. Is it better than Line of Duty? It's different. Some of the episodes on here are absolutely marvellous, and I rank them up there with anything. I quite like police procedural stuff. I don't watch a lot of it because there's so much out there to choose from, but I do watch certain things like murder mysteries and police-related dramas. But this one is certainly one of the best. Now, the reason I spent so much money on this, I wanted to see the second and third series, and BBC 4 weren't showing them, and iPlayer didn't have them up. Actually, more recent times, within the last couple of weeks, actually, I discovered that BritBox has actually put all of Between the Lines up, which annoyed me a bit because I paid 60 quid for this. If I'd realised, I could have just hung on a few months and then just streamed it all on BritBox, but even so, it's not necessarily going to be on BritBox forever. At least I've got the physical DVDs now. 20 quid each, you could say, for each series. Yeah, I could spend ages talking about just how addictive and how thoroughly entertaining Between the Lines is. There's twists and turns and things that you wouldn't expect, and the very end of it, and there again, no spoilers, but he's left on a real proper cliffhanger. And obviously that was never resolved because it was the end of the series as a whole. It's worth getting a BritBox account, even if you only have it for like a month or two, just to make sure that you watch all of Between the Lines, especially if you even have a passing interest in Line of Duty, because this is what kind of set the scene for Line of Duty 20 years on. Fantastic, that. Expensive for me for a second-hand DVD box set, but an absolute must-have. Just a couple of things left to show you now, and it's a couple of Blu-ray comedy box sets. This is one, I don't want to say it's an impulse purchase because it's not, because I'm such a big fan. I've mentioned about this particular comedy group on my channel before in numerous videos because I've got records. I've had the DVDs and some Blu-rays before. I think everything they've done pretty much visual wise is on Netflix still. But when it was on sale, I just couldn't resist getting this Monty Python's Flying Circus season or series 1 deluxe Blu-ray edition. And the reason it's deluxe is because it's got a production notes book that I'm still yet to read actually. So yeah, you can watch Flying Circus on Netflix currently, although as we know, Netflix and other streaming services can take things down at quite short notice. So it's fully restored in high definition for the first time. A little bit debatable. I think this was a proper network. We're going to do our own high definition scan of the entire Flying Circus series. I've not compared this to anything that's on Netflix, which is also supposedly in high definition, but it does look fantastic. I mainly got this for the extras and for the book, because it was cheap and in a sale. There's been 4 series of Monty Python's Flying Circus. I probably will get the other 3 on Blu-ray at some point, but I'm waiting for them to be in a sale, and I don't think the other 3 have a book with them, which is a bit of a shame, but perhaps it doesn't need one, because maybe that book covers the whole series. I'm not entirely sure, because like I say, I've not read it, but I love Python, have done since I was a kid. Some interesting extras on here. The extras and the book are probably what this is most worth buying if you're a Netflix customer anyway. And as I say, just for the sake of completeness really, next time they're on sale I may well pick up series 2, 3 and 4 just to say I've got them all on Blu-ray, and then there'll be some more extras there that I'll have never seen before, you know, deleted scenes and things like that. Python series 1, marvellous. And the last Blu-ray box set, and it's not the actual last thing I want to show you because I just remembered, I almost forgot actually, I've got a mail opening to do. I think that's the reason I wanted to do this video today, because I'm going to open some mail that links into all these at the end. But the final Blu-ray box set to show you is one that I got fairly recently within the last few weeks, and it's the 40th anniversary edition of The Young Ones. It looks really good in HD. You'd think, oh, the Young Ones tarted up and rescan into high definition, will that really work? But it does, and I can appreciate it with better eyesight now as well. You don't need me to tell you about the Young Ones. It started in 82, ended in 84 after the second series. Probably the most important sitcom of the 1980s really, because everything afterwards was like trying to aim to that high standard of anarchic alternative comedy that the Young Ones established from the get-go really, with episode 1 in season 1. The extras on here, there's a few new extras like sort of cut scenes and cutting room floor footage, but most of the longer extras are actually stuff that appeared on the 25th anniversary DVD set from, well, 15 years ago, which I did used to own. I ended up selling that, but I'm so glad that I've got the Blu-ray edition of this. Just for the higher quality of how the Young Ones looks in high definition, and the extras, while a lot of them are repetitive from what I've already seen before, they're still well worth seeing as well. And the Young Ones is just one of the most influential and iconic comedy shows ever really, along with Python really. You know, when it comes to influences and comedies that have influenced my own personal sense of humour and the way I've sort of approached life, you know, we've got Python and the Young Ones here. These are the 2 main ones really. Rick Mayall, Ade Edmondson, 2 absolute legends. Miss Rick Mayall so much, taken way too young. There again, I could stand here for ages waxing lyrical about the Young Ones. Right then, so I said we'd finish with a mail opening. So this is from Network's most recent sale. It's something I used to own many years ago, but this was one of the many things that I had to sell off when I was moving to Ireland, and I just couldn't take a lot of stuff with me for obvious reasons. But it's a comedy series, and it's one that I had the box set of 10 plus years ago, and I always threatened that one day I would get it back into the collection. It's not streaming anywhere like BritBox. I don't think ITVX stream it, or if they do, it's only selected episodes. So I just wanted a DVD set of this series again. It's a little bit Marmite to some people, this sitcom. It's dated, and it's old, and some of the gags are kind of sexist and maybe even a little bit racist, given that this was something that started in the late 60s. But it's the complete On the Buses. Yeah, I'm so happy that I've got this back. This wasn't much at all, I think 25% off its normal price, so this was around £15. There's a lot of discs in it because it's the complete series. 11 disc set, it says. Obviously stars Reg Varney, also people like Doris Hare, Michael Robbins, Anna Karen of course played Olive, Stephen Lewis was the immortal Blakey. Excellent stuff here On the Buses, the complete series. I think extras wise, there might be not documentaries and stuff, but I think there's like a couple of other Reg Varney type vehicles, maybe sort of like short films or something. And then there's also an episode, the pilot episode of the rather unsuccessful spin-off of On the Buses, Don't Drink the Water. I remember watching that episode when I had the original box set many years ago, and I thought that was a bit crap. So I doubt I'll bother watching that again, but certainly looking forward. This is going to be my Christmas viewing, really. Just going to be watching this all over the holiday season. This complete On the Buses. Great way to end my DVD and Blu-ray haul for 2022, and maybe a little bit of 2021 in there as well. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this look at a wide-ranging plethora of Blu-rays and DVDs. We've got comedy, we've got great films, we've got police and spy, thriller type stuff. Just everything that I've watched, that I've physically bought this year. And you know, obviously I haven't even talked about any of the stuff that I've been streaming. I did think about maybe trying to have a look at everything that I've streamed over 2022 and to kind of give you just my recommendations as to what I enjoyed the most. But there's so much stuff, so I think at least for this year I'm just going to stick to showing you all the physical releases. I want to say special thanks to my wonderful subscribers and my generous patrons. I'm going to go now, and well, you'll be seeing this video a bit after Christmas. I'm filming it a little bit before Christmas Day. I did say that this is going to be my Christmas holiday viewing On the Buses. Yeah, I've seen them all before, but not seen the entirety of it in well over 10 years, probably a lot longer actually. I've got a special fondness in a way for some of these 1970s ITV sitcoms that were completely politically incorrect and really don't hold up very well these days, but it just feels like a kind of almost bygone era now, even though it was, what, only 50 something years ago when most of these came out. I'm so excited to watch this, and I've got a lot of other stuff that I've shown you that I will be watching again over the coming months, years, and so on. And I do hope that all of you will join me again next time for my next DVD and Blu-ray collecting video. Cheers everyone. See ya!